So today's talk is my to-be list. Anybody here a list maker? Anybody got a to-do list you're working on? Anybody got one that's longer than you could possibly get done in your lifetime? Oh, okay, so maybe the next week or so. I'm a list maker. I love making lists. It helps me. And all these motivational speakers, if you go out and listen to the motivational speakers, right, all of the big ones, they're talking about if you want to achieve your goals, you have to write down what they are. Every one of them, right? You have to write them because otherwise you won't know what your goals are. They will go by the wayside and you will forget about them because new goals will evolve. And they always do because we all have lots of goals in life. It's kind of the nature of being in this linear time track of going from birth to whatever's next. And the problem is as we get new goals, they have a tendency to supplant the old goals, and then we look back at our stuff and say, well, wait, I really wanted to do that, but I got sidetracked. Which is why, as the motivationals, write them down. Make a list. Check it frequently. I mean, that's pretty standard from way back at Stephen Covey and right on up to all of the big names now that are doing motivational speaking. That's the basics for getting goals achieved, is writing your list down. And I have lists. My lists are so long I have A, B, and C categories. And I'm getting ready to start with the D category. You know, the D category is hire somebody to do that one. Because A, B, and C, I figure on any given weekend or weekday, if I can get through my A's, I have achieved all that I need to in life for that day. And if I get a few B's in there, I'm just being massive efficient, right? If I actually get to a C, I'm a super person. And I can get there. It's good stuff because it helps me focus on what it is that I want to get done. But what it does do to me that I've noticed is, anybody take a little bit of time in the beginning of the morning to set your intentions for the day? Maybe that's when you make your list of what I want to get done for this morning, right? And you're all steeped in that goodness, ready to run, and you walk out the door and the list goes in an opposite direction. And you end up running down life's events all day long. I won't say you, I do this. Honestly, I'm talking about me. Sometimes I like to duck the responsibility and throw a third party you in there. It's generic, I'm not giving it to you personally. But I will just start doing it. And I may start off by doing what's on the first thing on my list. But by the time I'm, 15, 20 minutes into the day, it doesn't take much longer than that, the rest of the list has gone on the wayside. I've set it aside and I've begun making another list to deal with the expedience of my life and what people have asked me to do that wasn't really on my list, but happens to be on their list to get me on their list to do what their D level stuff. Let me hire this person in to do that. And so what I have noticed is that while I have this intention to get this stuff done, to do these things, I've forgotten about a really key portion of that, which is, what do I want to be today? I don't know about anyone else, but so often I can start my day with the greatest of intentions. Now, first of all, I start my day, most days, I won't say every day, just about every day, with a meditation for a little while. Sometimes it's 5 minutes because that's how much time I got. Sometimes it's 35 minutes because it's one of those blessedly slow starting days and I can really steep into the quietness, And then I do some prayer work, I set intentions not only for myself, but for other people who have asked me to pray for them, and I do those intentions. And that centers me in this idea of the unity of life. That there's this one power and presence, and that I'm using it all the time, as each one of us are. We're each using that same power and presence all the time to create our lives, or according to our beliefs, sometimes according to our to-do list. If we're lucky, it's according to our to-be list, right? So there I am, steeped in that. And I get on, in my day job, I travel 95 at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if anybody has been on 95 at 6 o'clock in the morning. 95 is the speed limit. Not the road designation. And just to be doing 70, you're actually holding traffic up. And there's a lot of it in the morning because people are to-doing all over the place at 6 o'clock in the morning on 95. And I noticed that my intention that I set that morning, that peace, I'm going to be loved today. I am going to be a beneficial presence. I am going to be tolerant. I am going to be good. I start my day with those. I like those. I'm going to be prosperous. There's a couple others. Harmonious. Loving really covers most of that, you know. 95 has a way of having that just fly right out the door for me. I have to go back into prayer by the, I mean, I'm only on the road for like 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes on this road. And I'm like, by the end of it, I'm getting to the stoplight and saying, I better do a prayer for every one of those people. Wait a minute, doesn't work that way. Let me do that prayer for me, to be at peace and harmony and tolerant of the fact that everyone else is working on their to-do list of getting where they have to be as well. So what I've noticed is it's very easy to get sidetracked from our highest intentions. Well, first of all, we have to know what our highest intentions are. I'm going to borrow from the motivational speakers. Write them down. Okay, so if you're making your to-do, so I got to get this, I got to go there, I got to do it. How about right next to that, you make the to-be list. Right? Today I will be loving. Because there's something kinesthetic about writing it down that sinks it in the mind. That says, I will remember this. You know? That's why we write it down. And if you happen to forget, you can carry your list with you. Anybody got a pocket full of lists? I have a couple. And so I write them down. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be tolerant. I'm going to be helpful. You know, all the things that I want to be during the day. So that as I get through those moments, and often life can be challenging. Often we get confronted by things we were not expecting. And they might be startling. Or they might be derailing. Like I was supposed to be in South Carolina for 3 days this past week. That didn't happen. It's beyond my control, but it was pretty startling to find out on Monday evening that I would not be leaving on Wednesday morning. You know, because, well, there's this storm that was going to be there instead of me. And I was perfectly happy to not be driving into a hurricane, honestly. I mean, it was just startling, you know. But it changed my mindset, and I had to go back and reinvigorate what I was doing with this idea of what I wanted to be in this. And so, as in everything, I want to be a loving presence in my life. I want to be a source of peace and harmony and joy for those around me. And that's my highest ideal. And occasionally I achieve it. Occasionally. And to achieve it, it helps when I have touchstones to go back to. So like it's easy enough to put down where I need to be on my to-do list. I need to go to this store and get that. I need to get this little job accomplished. I need to get those things done. And if it's on my to-be list, I can do it just as easily because I can touch that every single day, every single moment of the day, and remember that I made a commitment to myself, because that's what to-do lists are and to-be lists are, a commitment to ourselves to be loving today. And if I find myself not being quite so loving, that never happens, right? There's that 95 again. Bless you! Or something like that. Then I can stop for a moment and take a breath. Thank you for the song. Keep breathing, but recognize the breath and get centered again in the fact that I am living in this very moment. That all of that to-do stuff is still in the future until it becomes the A-list. That all of that to-be stuff is what's happening right now. And I can recenter myself in being peaceful and loving. I find drawing a quick breath allows me to help. Sometimes I can get right in the middle of a challenging conversation. Voices are raising, the adrenaline is pumping, and there's defensiveness going on and all that kind of other stuff. And if I just take a breath right in the middle of that, I can shift gears from that and just say, you know what? This is getting a little heated. Let's step back. We'll come back in a couple of minutes and just take a breath and revisit this when we're not feeling so agitated. Because it's hard to be loving when you're feeling like hitting something. And I admit to this. I'm a human being. This is completely an aside, but I want to share it with you. I was reading through some of my old papers. I'm in the middle of purging my house of decades of stuff, right? And I ran across something I wrote in one of my early classes for practical mysticism. And I read this thing and said, my God, who wrote that? I used to be so smart. But there was a line in it that reminded me that, okay, so we read all this stuff in New Thought. We read all about the unity of life, the oneness of everything, and then we start beating on the humanness of experience. Does anybody see the inherent duality in that? I had just written this down in this paper, and it reminded me that almost two decades ago, I had this thought that when we talk about our humanness and all of our experience as human beings, as something other than God, other than part of the oneness of spirit, we have inherently separated ourselves from that divine source that is the truth of who we are. This experience, as it is right now with all of its things going on, is God. Must be that infinite source. Must be one with everything that is happening. And we have the choice to reconnect to that every single moment. Now, I know that was an aside, but actually that's a to be statement. Aware of the unity of life at all times. And when I can get back to that, take a breath, bring myself into the awareness of what is already present, that there is really no difference between me and you. That we are all one with this. We are all individual aspects of the same infinite intelligence experiencing itself as us in this moment. What a wonderful thing. And when we can stop and take a breath, we have an opportunity to do another thing that we like to do around here, which is to connect with that awareness through prayer. And I'll just say this. There's a difference between thinking about doing a prayer and doing a prayer. There is a difference between talking about doing a prayer and actually doing the prayer. Because what the prayer is to move our mind from wherever we are, which is feeling some kind of separation from that unity of life, to a recognition of the fact of our oneness with all of this good that we seek to experience in our lives. That's stuff on our to-do list and on our to-be list that we're trying to reconnect with. So I invite you, and it's not hard. All you got to do is say, I know God's good. Because God is good, so am I. Because there is only this good that is God. Whatever this thing that I desire in my life to experience, love, peace, harmony, prosperity, joy, abundance, whatever it happens to be, is part of that good and therefore is mine now. I am so grateful to know this truth. And I allow it and accept it in my life. It's that simple. And we have 60 hours of courses which will help you achieve that in that moment of challenge. So just remember, as you go about your day, whatever you seem to be confronted with, remember that this too is good, this too is God, this too is for each one of us now. And demand to see the blessing in it. Not my words, I know. But I love them. Because it's the truth. We can demand to see the blessing in any situation in which we are encountering, knowing that we are one with the one. Simple, huh? And sometimes challenging. But if we truly want to focus on what we want to be in the world as we are doing in the world, we have to set the intention first. And I invite you to write it down as you go through your week. What are your highest ideals of how you want to be in the world so that you can experience those? Because it's very, very difficult to experience peace when you're agitated. It's incredibly difficult to experience prosperity when you feel lack and limitation. It's absolutely challenging to feel love when you're expressing hate in all of its forms. So I invite you to set your intention on the highest possible goal that you can achieve for your own consciousness, and allow yourself to write it down and check in with yourself and breathe and be love. Namaste.
Namaste.